Thank you, Stephen.
Well done.
And now I'd like to call upon Jim, who's going to introduce our speaker today. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Stephen, and good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure and honor to introduce my friend Matthew Rowe. Matthew is he's the CEO of the Campaign for Wool in Canada and the Canadian Wool Council. And Matthew spends his time basically running around the country and the world promoting the cause of wool. And he's also been known to shear the odd sheep. Matthew has previously served.
I think it's the bottom.
Yeah, that's right.
Matt,
We had the same trouble with the lawn.
No?
great, okay. Matthew previously served as the vice president of the Princess Trust for Canada, which is now the King's Trust. And for his service to the community,
I think the batteries are dead.
Yeah, I think the batteries are dead, for sure.
It's a friend. Let's go without it, Jim. I'll run around, but it's going to take me a while.
can you hear me if I just do it a cappella?
Yeah.
Matthew is also a member of the board of the BNR, and he's going to talk to us today, give us a little bit of the story of the BNR. Matthew?
So fortunately, I'm blessed with a loud voice, just naturally. So hopefully you can hear me regardless. Let me know if I need to project further. I've never once in my life been asked to quiet down or to get louder. Usually it's quite the opposite. But I'm here to tell you a little bit about the BNR and some ramblings on wool, and then happy to take any questions. So the site that we're on, this has been club for 102 years, going back to 1924. The oldest part of the club is in the badminton hall, so if you've never been in there, you can take a look. You can still see some of the original brickwork that belies what this place originally was, which was a TTC streetcar barn. And this was I guess at some point Toronto City Council determined that there was a surplus to their needs, and we're looking to sell it off. And our founding president, Lieutenant Colonel George Gooderham Blackstock, purchased the site and founded the club here. He also became the club's first president. Colonel Blackstock was of the Gooderham Worts family, distillery district, whiskey and all that. And he had been an officer during the First World War and received the Military Cross and he was made an officer of the Order of the British Empire. But his nickname was Porky, and Porky loved badminton, and so they wanted a place, and that was the hot sport at the time. So they wanted a facility not too far from where a lot of his friends lived to be able to play this hot new sport. And so the club was carved out of that streetcar barn, and that is still the oldest portion of the club. Now, as we'll get into, the club has changed and evolved over the years. years, we've had not one but two fires. One smaller, one far more substantial. We're actually in the section that was replaced by the bigger fire, but we'll get into that in just a moment. Tennis arrived fairly soon after, so we were already expanding by 1927, and that's when we added the tennis courts. And I think they were insufficient then, and they continue to be insufficient now in terms of the demand, because tennis proved very, very popular, and is still one of, despite us only having 4 tennis courts, it is still one of the most popular sports here at the BNR. But we of course have since expanded to include all sorts of racket sports, including beyond badminton, including racquetball, squash, pickleball, which was the most recent addition, and even platform tennis, which is particular to the northeast of North America. It's lesser known, but it's played in the winter, and you can check out our platform courts where our summer patio is. So we shut down one of them, so we have some more outdoor space in the summer. For quite unusual for our private clubs at that time, we had. Oh, thank you.
Now I have to lower it ever so slightly. So we established a women's committee, and women were involved very, very early on. Again, this wasn't the practice all across private clubs in Toronto, but as of 1927, we had a women's committee. We did have to wait a little while until women actually got on the board. That wasn't until 1983, but progress was made. And then, of course, we had our first female president in 1994. There are still places in the UK, in Australia. I've been to 2 of them in the not too distant past, where I didn't even realize, but where they still have male-only clubs. You wouldn't even think that that's possible. But I was in Adelaide, Australia, a couple of years ago, and was sort of on a mission to find new reciprocal clubs. And I went to visit the Adelaide Club, beautiful facility. And he's like, "Oh, I was a bit surprised that you would reach out." I'm like, "Oh, but you're a beautiful historical club. You've got these lovely facilities. Of course you would be reciprocal." He's like, "Yes, but we don't allow women." I'm like, "Well, that's probably not going to pass." So unfortunately, that fell by the wayside. But again, here women have always had a strong place. So again, I mentioned the 2 fires. We had one in September of 2009. That was mostly in the men's locker room. Sort of gutted that side, and then that was rebuilt in the following year. So for those of you who came here before, again, it kind of grew higgledy-piggledy, as many of these clubs did, but again, had really this amazing charm. Again, you would see in many of the parts of the facilities, you could see still some of the construction from, other than the brick walls, but from that original streetcar barn, like the wooden slat floors and wool paintings, and it was. But unfortunately, at about 9 a.m. On Valentine's Day, 2017, the fire broke out, and it ultimately became a 6-alarm blaze. So to give you a sense of the scale, there was over 100 firefighters, 40 fire trucks, about 19 million liters of water, about $10 million in damage. Thankfully, no one was hurt. So that was the, other than the destruction of the club, but no members or staff were hurt, so we're very grateful for that. But it left a literal sort of gaping hole in the club. I was working sort of kitty corner across the street at 22 St. Clair, and I remember we were evacuated at that time, and you could see, like, out the windows, just this massive black plume of smoke. And again, as a precaution, they evacuated the whole block because they weren't sure how it was going to go. And so I ended up joining. I had been on the waiting list for a couple of years. Waiting list wasn't as bad as it is now for those of you thinking of joining. I think we're up to about 5 years now. But I joined in 2021, so the good fortune of beginning my membership just as this beautiful new wing was opened, and we were able to enjoy all of the new facilities. But you will see elements that reference sort of the before times, where some of the items that were able to be salvaged. In the courtside lounge there's a stained glass club
sign that was saved from the fire. Also above the fireplaces, especially upstairs, and I believe back here as well, the timbers that form sort of the mantelpiece were also salvaged from the fire, and you can even see some of the burn marks on the timbers. And then, of course, in tribute, our upstairs restaurant is named the Phoenix, so rising from the ashes. So, but again, I think what makes this club so special is that it's always really been a neighborhood club. When you look at our membership, it's about 85% of our membership live within 3 kilometers of the place. So this has always been a home away from home. It's multi-generational members, so you do see many members of the same family who continue to come here and to treasure sort of that sort of smaller environment. I think we've got a pretty. I think we do it right. Of course, I'm on the board, so I'm biased, but I think we've got a nice balance of lovely amenities, but also again a really friendly atmosphere. I found myself. I already knew sort of several people who were members when I joined, but I found very quickly I made lots of new friends because it's just that kind of community. People are, people join a place like this because they want to have, lifelong friendships and are open to meeting new people and things like that. So that was sort of my rundown on the club, and then of course we got the opportunity of celebrating our 100th anniversary 2 years ago with a number of interesting projects. Again, if you haven't seen upstairs where we have our wall of fame, and there's information about all the history of the club, and so you take a moment to check that out if you want to learn a little bit more about the background here. But as I say, we're always looking for new members, but you may have to wait a little bit because, as I say, the current waiting list is about 5-6 years. But it won't always be the case. So don't hesitate to put your name down, and happy to endorse. Should you be wishing to join us here. I did promise Jim I'd also say a little bit about wool, because that's what people always get most excited about in terms of the work that I do. So it's a very cool. Who would have thought? I was just being asked at the table of how'd you get into wool? And I have the best answer to that question, which is the king asked me. And so it began working at His Majesty's Canadian Charitable Office when he was still Prince of Wales. And it began with a really weird meeting at the Palace, at Clarence House in London, where we were presenting on all the different initiatives that we were engaged in at the time. They were like, yes, wonderful. And then at the end of it, sort of leaned in and said, have you given any thought to bringing the campaign for wool to Canada? I said, no, the Prince had just launched it a couple years earlier. And said, oh, okay, well, we'd like for you to look into that. And so absolutely, of course. And then about a month later, they called back, which never happened. The Palace we had to chase them. They never proactively reached out on anything. So the fact that they were calling sort of unprompted was like, hello? It's like, oh, how are things going with the campaign for wool? And we said, oh, well, we've had some initial calls. And they said, oh, wonderful. So the Prince and the Duchess have decided they'd like to launch it as part of their upcoming tour. I'm like, you mean the one in 3 months? They're like, yes, in Nova Scotia. And of course, you'll have everything ready for that. And I'm like, of course we will. Hung up the phone and yada yada yada. Sort of freaked out, went to my boss's office. It was like, okay, apparently we're launching the campaign for wool, but made it happen. It nothing like a deadline to concentrate the mind. So in 2014, the now King and Queen, Charles and Camilla, launched the campaign for wool on a windy pier in Pictou, Nova Scotia, and we've sort of grown since then. So the organization has been around for 12 years, or the initiative, the campaign for wool. We created the Canadian Wool Council to sort of house it after it continued to sort of outgrew the Prince's charities, and I had the opportunity to go on and lead it. And so we've been involved in so many different ways. I can talk about wool for hours, obviously, but I want to be respectful of your time. But I want to highlight just one of our most recent projects, which is kind of sums up a lot of what we're trying to do in terms of developing high value added applications for Canadian wool, highlighting Canadian manufacturing and talent. And so this was a project where we worked with the outgoing Governor General, Mary Simon, to design a 100% Canadian wool hand-tufted rug manufactured just down the road in Waterloo, Ontario. And it was
it was based on a design it was based on a favorite place in the high Arctic, or in northern Quebec, where she had visited as a child. It was where her grandparents had been born, and her cousin had painted this painting of this scene of these beautiful rivers flowing into the Arctic Ocean. And she had that in her office, and so she was like, "Can you make this into a rug?" And I was happy, obviously. So working with the incredibly talented team at Creative Matters, one of the world's top rug designers, you wouldn't realize, that are here in Toronto, and do projects for everyone from LVMH to Four Seasons to private residences. They did the Canadian Senate and Canada House in London. But before we got involved with them, they never used Canadian wool. So again, working with their design, the incredible talented team at Cabernet Carpets were one of the only places in North America where you can make rugs of this quality here. And the result was this spectacular rug that we got to unveil at Mary Simon's goodbye party at Rideau Hall with all the people involved in the making of it. So she got to meet everyone from the designers to the manufacturers to even one of the farmers where like the wool had come from. And most importantly for us was that this donation, we got a local business person to sponsor the creation, and it was donated to the Crown Collection. So it belongs to us, to the people of Canada, and you can see it going to Rideau Hall. It's in I think it's called the Vanier Room, on public tours now, and we're working with the current Governor General to do a rug based on her interests, and we want this to be sort of an ongoing tradition. I have to say, we did get the idea from the US. It wasn't from this particular president, but every president, you wouldn't realize, has one of the first things they get to do is design a wool rug for the Oval Office, and it changes with each administration. So we wanted to sort of establish that tradition for Canada, but to use Canadian wool, Canadian manufacturing. So that was quite an exciting initiative. And then one other thing that we just got, investing in the future of the industry, that we just got word that we received Ontario funding. I'm not supposed to announce it yet, so please don't tell the media. But we received some support to develop an accreditation for shearing. So Jim mentioned, of course, this is how we get our wool. You have to shear the sheep, and this is very much a skilled trade. And for the right person, can be an amazing job because you get to work outside in our late winter and spring and summer, and then when you're done, if you're really good at it, you can go to the Southern Hemisphere and do it all over again in Australia or South Africa. So you can have quite a well-paying year-round job working with sheep and harvesting wool, if that's something of interest. The problem in Canada is that our average shearer is now, I think it's in the high 50s. It's not an older man's game in terms of, it's very physically demanding. So we need new young shearers to go into this. And up until now, if you wanted to train to be a shearer, you had to find someone to mentor you, and they might be good, they might be not. There was no sort of objective standard. So we are now working with British Wool, one of the largest sellers of wool in the world, who have a very developed shearing program, to adapt that program to Canada and create a Canadian credential that would then be equivalent. We would recognize on both sides, so you could then take that credential to work in the UK. And then we have hungry demand from, again, the Southern Hemisphere, where they have a lot more sheep, and they said they will take anyone that we will send them. And so we're in the process of rolling out that program now. So we just got some news on the government funding. We need to get a bit of match raised as well, but that's a way that we are investing in the future of skills for the industry. So maybe I'll cut it off there, and happy to take any questions, but just a little bit of background on the club where you're having your meetings now, as well as the wonderful world of wool. So, yes.
I'm interested to hear you talk about wool. I have an Old English sheepdog. We're always on the lookout for sheep to see if she knows what.
Yes.
And in all the years of touring around Canada from one coast to the other, I see very little evidence of sheep. Where on earth are they?
We do have 1 million sheep in Canada, about 1 million. They're in Ontario primarily, Ontario and Alberta, and then you throw Quebec in that mix, and that's about 3/4. But there are sheep farms in every province and one territory, the Yukon. There's 3. It's not hospitable enough to raise sheep in the high Arctic, but you can get some in Yukon at least. But yeah, the bulk of operation, and then when you look at Ontario, it's like southwestern Ontario is a big cluster, and then also eastern Ontario, so around Ottawa. Traditionally, actually, that area around Ottawa was where a lot of the processing, the manufacturing, our national cooperative is still based in Carleton Place, out in that direction, and you've got, again, old mills and stuff that are, like in Mississippi Mills, where it's a museum, but you have the legacy of that industry that was much larger. I mean, by talking to my New Zealand counterpart, he talks about the glory years before the invention of nylon, where it was during the Korean War, and he said his father, or I guess his grandfather, had in 1 year's clip made enough money to buy the farm beside them. That doesn't happen anymore. And even if you're raising a high value-added wool, the costs have all gone up, and certainly for strong wool, you're lucky if you make enough to be able to pay the shearer. So, but it's a health and welfare thing. The sheep have to be shorn. They have to be shorn for their own well-being. You've probably seen videos where sometimes the sheep gets away and goes off into the wilderness, and it just keeps growing. And so there was like this one, I think they called him Ba Rock. It was during the term of Barack Obama. But he was found out in the outback, and he'd actually survived. The wool on him was so thick. It was something like 6 or 7 years out there. Thank you so much. 6 or 7 years in the outback, but it was actually like a superpower. Like the dingoes couldn't eat him because they couldn't bite into him. So they would just get frustrated and leave him alone. And so he actually did quite well by it. But yes, it is. We do have to shear the sheep, and wool is the most incredible natural fiber there is. It has the most incredible technical properties. It can be turned into everything from clothing to carpeting, upholstery, industrial felts. We have a company that we work with out in Mississauga. You would know every train car, for example, in Canada has 4 wool felt discs on its axles that they dip into grease. I'll have some of that water. That they dip into grease, and it lubricates the axles. And because wool is naturally flame retardant, it won't melt. Because if it was synthetic, if it got overheated, it could literally melt to the axle, which won't happen with wool. Yes.
One of the greatest current trends in clothing is merino wool.
Yes.
Is Canadian wool merino or
No. So merino is a breed of sheep. So and even within merino, you can have quite a range in terms of fineness. But overall, merino wool is the finest, or you can get the finest possible fiber in merino. But we produce. Canada has French merinos, which are called Rambouillet. Especially in the prairies. So fine fiber does really well, interestingly, in a dry climate. They don't care as much about the temperature fluctuations in terms of heat and cold, but it's the humidity so it tends to do well in very dry places. So the prairies are actually perfect for raising that fine wool. So we do have Rambouillet production that would be around the same end of the higher end of merino. It sort of overlaps. But we don't produce a lot of that sort of apparel wool. The majority of that for the world would come from Australia and South Africa, in that order, and then a little bit from New Zealand. But we do have the potential to raise it, and we have done projects using fine Canadian wool, like we did a project with Smythe a few years back, making blazers and things like that. So, but our wool on average is better suited for interiors applications. So it's better for carpets, upholstery, because it's a little bit coarser in terms of the breeds that we raise. Yes.
First of all, thank you very much for coming back again to talk to us, and for Jim Moore for inviting you. I was really interested in your comment about the B&R being a community club. We are also a community organization in that we're very happy to, support projects to the tune of probably $100,000 a year locally. And I'm wondering, is there any possibility for some sort of a partnership? Like, would the BNR, does the BNR know that we're here? Do they know what we do? Would they care? Should we try to reach out and talk to them about it?
Yeah, well, I mean, you are in the sense that I'm on the board, so I can carry this forward. Again, we don't do a lot of because we're a private members club and we are a nonprofit, but our mission is obviously supporting our members. We don't do a lot of independent charitable activity, but that doesn't mean that there isn't the possibility to work together. I mean, this could be. We've got some amazing professionals here in terms of training. Could there be an opportunity, for example, to provide elite level training for young people that might not have access to that kind of training normally, or to these kinds of facilities normally? I think absolutely, and would be happy. I'm having worked at sort of the nexus of nonprofit, charity, private enterprise in one form or another for a big chunk of my career. Always happy to push those kinds of initiatives because I think partnership is, you can always do more together. So be delighted to raise that with the board.
Thank you.
Yes.
No, it's kind of interesting that we as a club used to meet here before the last fire. So
Welcome home.
No, exactly. So we've certainly been in the neighborhood, but again, we've come back home, as you say. So we did have a lot of connections way back when, and such, and a lot of those have dissipated.
Yeah.
But certainly, as per Jackie's request there, we should reintegrate as part of this community, because we're heavily involved in a lot of charities in this community.
Yes.
And there's probably areas that we could help the club with, that we don't even know about, right?
Yeah, that would be great. Happy to help facilitate a dialogue. And of course, selfishly, I can also make a pitch for, should you be interested in supporting youth shearing training, that's our current project on the docket. We have matching funding now, as I say, confirmed by the government of Ontario, so your funds would go twice as far. But we're looking to do that as a partnership with Clearwater Farm. I don't know if any of you have ever visited. It's in Georgina. It's an educational farm on the shores of Lake Simcoe. It started off them just wanting to preserve the watershed, and now it's the social enterprise farm, and they do all kinds of youth training. They run like a bin program for providing like fresh fruits and vegetables and all of that, but there's all this different youth programming there, and that's going to be where we're going to deliver the shearing training before we roll it out across the country. So some opportunities there if you're looking to muck about with some sheep. Yes.
Where do the kids come from for the training?
So from wherever. So we want to do, because we have a fervent belief that there's this idea that Canada, again, we're this wild and rural country. We all live in cities, and it's more so now than ever. I think something like 85% of our population is like urban or like semi-urban. So if we want to recruit from the best possible pool, obviously people who are the first people you look for are people who have familiarity with sheep farms and things like that. But I think there's an untapped cohort of people in cities that, given the opportunity, if you presented this job as being you get to play with sheep all day and give them haircuts and get to travel around the world while doing it. I think for the right person, that could be an amazing opportunity. So to answer your question, I think we're looking, we're looking, of course, first and foremost, at the people who already know they want to be shearers. But I think for this program to be really successful, we have to reach into urban communities where, again, they have never even thought of what a sheep farm is, and then realize that actually, I have an affinity for animals. This could be something that I'd like to do. So, yeah.
How long will the course be?
So it's not very involved to be able to be trained up. So there's different levels, but each level is only a few days worth of training. So, and then there's there's accreditation and testing that goes along with that. I don't have offhand to do the whole journey to become a master shearer, but it's very attainable. It's not like a multi-year degree, because most importantly, they want you to spend as little as time in the classroom. It's about the more sheep you work with, the more you learn. And so being able to work with individuals that are already out on farms, that's how you're going to be able to learn.
Could you remember to send us some contact information?
Yeah, I'd be happy to.
Just in case we have something we might be able to help you with.
Of course, yeah, that's very kind. Yeah, and certainly, like, because again, the average sheep farm in Canada is about 300. So again, that's one person can do that mostly in a day. Like if you know what you're doing, then that's fine. Where you're really going to get your experience is going to do some of these work placements in South Africa or in Australia. I visited a sheep farm there that was driving around. It goes on forever and ever. I asked them, how many sheep do you have right now? He's like, we're down right now, but we're pretty average, 35,000. I was like, oh, okay. And he's like, and when we're lambing, it's about 60. It's like, wow. And so on places like that, they'll have 12. We actually stayed in the shearing. They have shearing accommodations there because they bring in teams of like 12 shearers at a time, and they'll go on one ranch for like a week, and they'll all be just shearing every single day. And that's for that fine merino wool, which is worth quite a lot more than our coarser strong wool. So, yes.
Getting back to the history of the club.
Yes.
I seem to remember some time ago that as you walk down the driveway into the club, there were very impressive gates with a crest. Does that still exist?
You know what? I think someone had brought up the gates at a previous board meeting, and I'm trying to remember what happened. But maybe if I could take that away and come back. But I think they do, or at least part of it exists still.
Right,
but
because it was with the gates, there was a very impressive crest.
Yeah.
And it was easy to find its location.
Yes.
Now, when we're telling new members or guests how to get here, well, you walk down an alleyway after I give them the name of the restaurant.
Yeah, Mary B.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the charms and struggles of this facility, in that I've had many a time where I've set up a lunch with someone and then they call me sort of in a panic, and then because we're not really supposed to take phone calls, have to go find a corner to hide away to answer and explain, oh no, it's just down that alley and that's where we're headed. But yes, it's kind of an odd shaped property. There's also been proposals over the years, kind of endless, obviously, in a part of Toronto like this, where there's been different proposals about maybe, for example, like working with some of the properties on Yonge Street and having a different entrance, or if they build a condo here, then we would have we could expand our parking options, but then we would again have a through driveway. So these conversations are always ongoing, but slowing down a little as of late with the condo market, but.
Thank you very much indeed, Matthew, and I'd like to call upon Ron to
Thank you.
your thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. On behalf of the club, I want to thank you for coming to speak to us again. We learned that your club and our Rotary Club have lots in common. Over 100 years old, community-based here. And unfortunately, we both share the embarrassment of only allowing women to join in the 80s, which has always been a sore point for me about Rotary.
Better late than never.
That's true. And sort of on one of the points Jackie made is we had a club member who championed a relationship at the Toronto Lawn Tennis Club related to underprivileged youth being introduced to tennis. So maybe that would make more sense for us to do here. So we should have some things hopefully to talk about in that regard. Thank you again for speaking to our club.
Thank you, Ron. Now we're going to move on to club business. Matthew, you're welcome to stay, but we understand if you've got lots going on, you need to get away. That's fine too.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we should do Happy Bucks. Somebody would like to do Happy Bucks, if we can find something to.
Is there any? Stephen. Thanks for starting us off.
First of all, for such
Use this microphone.
First of all, for such a loud and proud voice, it's amazing how people complain you're sheepish.
Oh, nice.
I got a worse one coming up. I put in $5 for a marvelous trip that we got back from the Maritimes, a 2-week wonderful trip. And it makes me now have 9 provinces under my belt. And thanks to Ron, there'll be 10 in about 3 weeks. So, but one very sad story from the trip our bus driver had a dog, and he was taking the dog into the woods, and he got a tick. And so they took him to the veterinarian, in his foot, in his paw. So they took him to the veterinarian. And unfortunately, while he was at the vet, he got an attack in his foot as well. And so they had to take him to the vet hospital, and he was diagnosed with tic-tac-toe.
Okay, $5.
That was worth it.
$5. You owe us another $20.
Well done.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew.
Anybody else with happy bucks?
Okay, bye-bye.
Okay.
Right, you wanted to,
I have a motion.
yeah. Tom has a motion.
Yep. Go ahead, do that.
On behalf of the community group, we have one motion today. I'm moving that, I need a second, to donate $5,000 to John Poliani Institute from the bingo funds to support Saturday morning tutoring program and the leadership training program, allowing the school to divide the funds between the two programs as they see best. We've been working with John Poliani for a long time, and now we have a champion at the school that wants to work with us, and we're really excited about getting back involved with John Poliani again. Thank you. And I have a motion. I move.
I'll second it.
Seconded by Jackie. And I have everybody's opinion.
Yes, yes.
Perfect.
Very good.
Just one thing. Did you notice in Matthew's speech, he talked about mentoring, their members mentoring? And in the John Polanyi proposal, they were looking for people who might want to teach English on Saturday mornings, and they also mentioned were there any guest speakers for their leadership program of people in management and in different careers, so it could be a possibility there. But I definitely think that we should follow up on Matthew's offer, because I was talking to him privately about this, and he said, how are you liking it here? And I said, well, we kind of feel like we're sort of on probation, you know, we kind of like a locker, maybe a place to keep our stuff so that we don't have to cart it back and forth. And he said, oh, I'd be happy to take that to the board. I get a sense that if they knew more about us, the board would be more accommodating to having us here. So thank you, Jim, for making that connection. Great.
Very good. Any more? Lisa, do you have anything you want to?
A couple of things. I'll be quick.
Plenty of time.
So at our last board meeting, we received the report from the awards committee, and we have decided to award two, this is from last year, two Service Above Self awards to Craig and to Glenn, and we're also awarding a Paul Harris to Anna for her work with the Ukraine project, and to Rita Natango, I'm sorry if I'm butchering that, who was our contact in Uganda for the Bugari Wash program. So as far as the presentation to our club members, we are working on a date that's going to work for everybody. We'll keep you posted. And for Rita, it's going to be a virtual presentation over Zoom. The club in Uganda has recommended 11 o'clock on a Wednesday morning. So it's, I think that's 6 p.m. Uganda time. It's what works for them. So I have come back and suggested a day that we are not meeting at lunch, just to make life a little bit easier. But I will let you know what the date of that Zoom. If there's anyone who was not involved directly with the project, sorry, do you want me to wait? Who's not involved directly with the project but would like to be on that Zoom presentation, I'll let you know about the dates. The second thing I have is the foundation walk for our district is on September the 27th, which is a Sunday. It's in the morning. It's in Campbellford. I'm planning to go. My daughters don't know this, but I'm gonna try and take them with me. If anyone is interested in joining, I'm gonna talk to David about how I set up a team. Sorry, this is not my, I'm not technically proficient. Anyway, and I also have a copy of, email copy of pledge forms. If anyone's interested, just send me an email. Lastly, at our meeting last week on Zoom, we had a speaker from Jen Craig from the travel agency that we've worked with before. And we were talking about doing something, perhaps if there were a group of people who are planning to go to the international convention in Barcelona. The dates for the convention are actually later in June. It's June 26th to the 30th. And Lars sent out an email suggesting, just to let you know, the cost for the convention is $595 US per person if you order in the first week the tickets are available, which is the 17th to the 21st. On September the 22nd, the cost goes up $200 US to $795, and if you order after December the 2nd, it's now $895. So if anyone is interested in the convention in Barcelona, interested in getting together and try to do some sort of thing, group thing, to either send email to Lars or to me. Okay? That's it for, oh, yeah?
The foundation, what are the dates again, and where is the location?
The 27th of September, it's a Sunday morning,
Right.
Campbellford, Ontario.
20 miles north of Brighton.
Yeah, it's out in the very western regions
And
of
they'll
our
send, the
district.
district will send an email on the foundation, if they haven't already. I think they already have.
How far a drive is that from Toronto?
An hour,
No, more than that.
An hour and a half.
hour and a half, okay.
Okay, good, okay.
Jackie?
Getting back to the awards, was there not another Paul Harris to Mr. Best?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, you're right, Tom Best, yes, to the director of
Book
clubs for in.
Book clubs for inmates.
And we were talking about making a presentation to him potentially at the holiday party.
Yeah.
But that is something we'll have to work out with him, yes, thank you.
Can I just say one thing about Craig Travel? I spoke to Jen, and she said if she had a group of 15 from this club, like originally I thought, well, maybe Lars could take it to the district, but there are travel agents in the district, so it would just be this particular club and friends. So Jen would do group airfare and subsequent day trips or whatever. She would tailor something for Toronto Eglinton. So if you're interested, get your name to Lars or Lisa, and then they will contact Jen. And Lars is also talking about some kind of a survey to find out how long you're interested in staying and where you want to visit and that sort of thing. Thanks for bringing that up,
Okay.
Lisa.
That's all I've got. No more questions. I will turn the floor back to Stephen.
One thing I would like to mention, first of all, I forgot to mention right at the beginning, we have, I believe, 19 members here today and one guest, Amanda, at the back, who Tom's going to introduce a bit later on. I would like to mention also the golf tournament, if anybody is getting ready to get organised with that, please do so. We want to sort of see if we can get a number of foursomes organised. I'm having a bit of trouble at the moment getting my foursome finalised. At the moment I've got two, myself and one other person, one backed out, and two of my friends who usually play can't make it this year, so I'm on the lookout for a couple more people. So speak to myself or Bill about that so we can get some foursomes registered as soon as possible. And I don't know, has anybody else got anything else they want to raise? Yes.
I just wanted to mention that
Next week is wrong.
yes. So on September the 2nd, Ron will be receiving a service award, an Imperial Service Award. And so at the Raw next Wednesday, I asked Ron, once he's there, if he's there, he would just speak and give us an informal talk about things that he's been involved with Rotary and throughout his very interesting life. So I invite everybody to come on to the Raw. on Wednesday, and I'll have more details about the service awards after September the 2nd.
David, do you want to?
Just reminding everybody about the farmers market. So we're still needing some people for September and October. So reference my email. If you can help out, that would be fabulous.
Okay, and I just want to make an announcement that the foundation's having a meeting right after this meeting, and that's why Amanda Werger's here. And welcome as our guest. We're glad to have you. Thank you.
Okay, so unless anybody else has anything else they would like to raise, I'll call the official meeting to a close. Thank you very much indeed. See you at RA next week and back here beginning of September. Thank you.
Are you ready to start?
Can you send, did we already vote? We didn't vote on this motion before online. Can you send it to me so I can put it in the minutes, so I can have it, a record of it, so that I can have it for the minutes?
Oh, for the John Pauliani?
Yeah.
Okay, we will.
Yeah. Because we're now meeting every 2 months, so I have to have it on record
No, we
somewhere.
just voted now.
Yeah, I know, so I need to have it in writing somewhere.
I'll get Glenn to send it.